you're too far ahead of yourself, and you really just need to be, one day at a time, 1 mile at a time, one step at a time, bring it all the way back. So like sobriety and the AA journey for me, it just mirrors and mimics and feels a lot like, a training program, because, in life, you're just going to have tough moments where you're out there, you just don't want to feel like doing it anymore. You feel like you just want to quit or whatever. And same thing for me in drinking.
Welcome to For the Long Run, the podcast exploring the why behind what keeps runners running long, strong, and motivated. I'm your host, Jonathan Levitt. Through personal and professional connections in the running world, I have the privilege of getting to know some amazing athletes. I've always been fascinated by the psychological aspect of running, and this podcast is aimed at exploring this and much more. I hope you enjoy. This episode is brought to you by Lyric to help enable everybody and every body to feel better every day. Lyric is a therapeutic massager and home wellness companion. It's designed for display so you won't forget to use it, and it looks beautiful on any coffee table. It even includes an accessory handle to find those hard-to-reach places so that you can massage your back by yourself. Grab yours today for $1.99 at national retailers like Target, Best Buy, Bed Bath & Beyond, or REI, or get free shipping online with the code FTLR at experiencelyric.com. Welcome back. I have Tommie Runz joining me on the podcast today. Tommie, thanks so much for taking some time to chat.
No problem, man. I'm excited to be on, bro. Thank you.
Of course. I don't think I've ever had this many shoes in the background of a podcast recording. So unfortunately for the listeners, they can't see, but there's 15, 18 pairs back there.
Yeah, something like that. I mean, that's all the nice ones. Those are the ones I'm proud of, like to show. And then the rest of them are like on the floor. They're just kind of waiting to be worn. These don't get worn much. The ones on the floor do,
These are the racers.
Yeah, these are more like the races. Everything on the top few rows is carbon fiber,
Nice.
Yeah.
A lot of carbon in there.
A lot of carbon going on up here.
Awesome. Well, before we dive too much into talking about running and the pieces of the puzzle that go into it, who is Tommie?
Man, I don't even know yet.
Question right from the jump.
Jeez, can we talk about the weather a little bit? Who's Tommie? Who's Tommie? I don't really know yet, because I think it's a weird question for me. It's like I'm always been trying to figure that out, and I try to figure it out through many different, avenues and outlets. But right now, Tommie's a dad, a husband, a runner, sober, and I think sobriety, all that stuff falls under sobriety for me. And that's kind of allowed me to explore who I am without, harming the people in my life and myself. There's no real answer to that. I'm just trying to evolve and figure out what's next and be, valuable to people. So yeah, it's a crappy answer, but that's me. I'm just kind of moving with the wind and trying to make sure I'm doing the next best thing, next right thing.
I love that. And so this question evolved from me being lazy and not wanting to write intros to like, wow, it's really interesting, like how somebody explains themselves, because I was bucketing people like, Tommie is a runner from, you're from Michigan, right?
Yeah.
From Michigan who likes road racing and blah, 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 blah. And it's like, no, there's so much more to you than just this one categorization. And the way that you led into it, like, it's so fascinating when I ask this to Olympic athletes and they don't even mention that they run.
Right.
And they're like, this is what I am interested in. And so I did a podcast with Megan Roche, who's here we go, I'm going to do it. She's a professional trail runner, coach, physician, epidemiologist, researcher, dog mom, like all these things, wife. Mm-hmm. And we talked about identity and not bucketing yourself into just one thing, because like what happens when you don't have it?
Yeah, that thing is gone. What are you then?
Right. And so I think it's fascinating, like the way that people answer this question.
Yeah, I think I definitely agree with that. Because I have a show too. And I feel like, it's really cool when you get that person where when they offer or they put out more than just like the running thing, and they're doing a lot more. So it's more fun, I guess, to introduce them, because they're not bucketed automatically. Like if you look at their Instagram, it's all over the place, and they're doing this, they're in philanthropy, blah, blah, blah. That's really cool. But then those ones where it's just like, there's a 400-meter runner, it's like, I feel bad introducing them like this. So like, I normally just try my best to just start the show and just get past that part as quickly as possible, unless it's like epic and it's like, oh, 2-time Olympic finalist, like then you got to throw that in there. But then you just try to move on because it kind of sucks just to think that forever we've always thought of athletes and whatever they are just as that. And then you have that whole aspect of, mental health too. I mean, because when these people, get hurt or something, or the sponsorship drops or whatever, then they have real issues. And it's because we treat them like that bio, and that's it. So I appreciate that question. I wish I was ready for that.
But that's the point. Nobody's ever ready for. I mean, unless they listen to the podcast and they're like, "Yeah, I've been thinking about this and I'm still not ready,"
Yeah, right.
which is funny. So I saw a tweet from Steve I think it was Steve Magnus the other day, and he was talking about Olympic athletes retiring and like imagine putting all this time into your craft and then like needing to figure out another craft.
Yeah.
And it's like right along the same lines here of like what happens when you don't have the thing that conventionally has defined you for the last 10, 15 years.
Yeah, that's terrifying to even think about that. I mean, because it's not like, people just go like, oh, it's just swimming or it's just running or it's whatever. But like if you take Michael Phelps, for instance, I mean, he didn't go 2 days in a row without being in the water in some way since he started because of something about your body goes back to its normal buoyancy or some crap like that. I mean, he's for real. Like, say you can't go more than 2 days or your chemistry will kind of start to change back to your like land animal situation. But like their whole lives, like not just this is what they're good at, they do it every single day, like for decades, and then all of a sudden it's just like, oh yeah, you should be fine because you got money. Like that's not the case. Like these people invested so much into that.
Definitely sweat equity. Unless you're in a pool, I guess you're still sweating, but
Yeah, I wonder. That's a good. I wonder, like all those. You think that all those hard like training sessions, you got to sweat in there somewhere. Like there's something got to be going on, right?
I don't know.
You've just messed up this whole interview now. So like there's this thing that you just made me feel like, so like if you put your feet flat on the floor, right? And then you tried to move your big toe without moving your other toes. Can you lift your big toe without moving other toes?
I can do it on my right foot, but not my left foot.
I can't do it on either foot, and I can't even move any of my toes at that point. And it gives me the weirdest feeling. And you just did that to me with this whole sweat in the pool thing. So
My
thanks for
friend
that.
calls this pretzeled. You're just pretzeled.
Yeah, nah, yeah, I'm officially pretzeled the rest of this interview.
So let's take a step back. This is a running podcast. We've talked
Oh yeah,
about running and pretzels and swimming and all sorts of
sweat.
mental health and sweating in swimming pools, which we'll dive into some of these topics. But let's set the stage for Tommie Runz as a runner. Do you remember your first run?
Like first race.
No, like first run.
First run, yeah, I think like my first run. So my first run was technically in like 2015. My sister was like, "Hey, let's do this 5K." We were in Savannah, Georgia at the time, and she's like, "Let's do this 5K," and I was like, "I can do that, I'm sure." So I just like went and ran like 2 miles or whatever, and I was like decent. It wasn't like I just ran a mile out and back, and I don't even know what the pace was, but I knew I didn't like it, but I knew I had already paid the money for this like stupid 5K thing, so I was just gonna stick with it until then. And then like I think I started training like 4 weeks ahead of time, and training meant just go run every now and then and try not to die and get to the 3 miles, and you should be good. If you can do that, then you can do it anytime. Then I went did the race and was the worst thing ever. Had a knee brace on during the race because like bad knees or whatever. I don't think I had bad knees, but I just probably was wearing crappy shoes and bad form or whatever.
You did have your 18 shoes there with the 5 carbon
Did
plates.
not have any of these shoes. And I think I just was like, no, I know. I was like, this just isn't for me. I'm glad I was there for my sister. That's it, though. And didn't run again for 3 years. Like, I think I ran maybe 10 times that whole time and then was just done with it forever. And then accidentally kind of got back into it.
How did you get back into it?
So I always have to start in 2017 when I got sober. So I went the sobriety path. I had all this extra energy and such. Started going to the gym like literally 6 days a week, lifting weights, got pretty buff, and like was enjoying that lifestyle. And one of my clients from work was like, "Hey, we're doing the rock and roll half marathon in Chicago. You should come out and just run with us because you're fit. You could do 13.1 miles. It's no problem. You have time to train for it or whatever." So I said, sure, because it's number one, it's a client. Number two, it's a new challenge. And I got this whole energy thing going for me. And I think I had just went vegan too a few months before that too. So I was like, yeah, sure, why not? I'm into trying new stuff. Trained for it, got a stress fracture on like my foot. It was just all bad. Just didn't run for the first 3 weeks before the race because of the stress fracture. So I was just on the bike in the elliptical. Doctor said, like it's gonna be 6 weeks before this heals. And I'm like, well, the race is 3 weeks away. So what are we gonna do? And she's like, I'm not gonna tell you what to do. You shouldn't do anything, but if you just have to, don't do anything for the next couple of weeks. So I just rode the bike and the elliptical, ran the race in Chicago, did not die during the race, and liked the process, liked the grind, and said, oh, I'm just gonna keep going and see what happens.
What did that finish line feel like?
Oh my God. It felt like it was just overwhelming. Like I never, wanted to be a runner. Like it wasn't like one day. It wasn't even a bucket list thing. It was just I just responded to the new challenge. And I think that crossing that first finish line felt like that year and a half of sobriety to veganism to like getting healthy and lifting weights. And before I got sober, I had high blood pressure, like I was supposed to be taking pills every day. But the day I quit drinking was the last day that I took medication, not under doctor's orders, but that's just the way I did it. So going from like being worried about having a stroke all the time and all this stuff to not drinking to lifting weights and getting healthy, it felt like that whole year and a half all packed into like one moment of me crossing this finish line. Even though like it wasn't like the time wasn't like epic or whatever, it wasn't super impressive, but it was just like that year and a half meant something at that point, and it was back before COVID, obviously. So it was like packed, and then my family was there and I got to hug them. And it was just the most emotional moment like ever.
So a lot of people talk about the finish line being a celebration of like the miles to get there. And for you, it was literally like a celebration of the year and a half journey to get there.
I never thought about that until you just asked me the question, like what that meant, what it felt like. But it didn't feel like it was like I closed the loop or anything. Like it wasn't like okay, this is what this is all for. But it was
It's a new
it
opportunity.
was like, oh, okay, like this is what is now possible because of these changes. Because year and a half before that, it wasn't even like a thought. Somebody said that they ran at 13.1 miles, I would probably like giggle and say, why? Like, what do you, whatever. But it was like, everything made sense at least a little bit more at that moment. And seeing how happy my family was, even though like at the time they weren't like steeped in running, because I talk about it all the time now, it was like they just were there and happy that they saw me and these other people trying to do their thing, and it just was like, just keep going, see what happens. And then, now it's kind of fast track. So, now here we are.
What was it like having your family there?
Man, it was like the most important thing in the world to have them there. Like, cause it was, they were there through the crap too. Like, they were there when I was drinking at 8 o'clock in the morning. They were there when I was supposed to be there, but I was asleep and they were watching TV and I was supposed to be with them, like to have them there see that, not only am I not drinking and not only am I trying to, get fit and do things, I'm doing something that at the time my circle of friends and like my community was like running for a younger, black guy is just wasn't. I'm not saying that it wasn't a thing for anybody out there that looks like me, but it just wasn't like huge. It wasn't big run clubs, in the area doing their thing yet. And they might have been, I just wasn't familiar with them. So it was like to see me out there doing something that we don't do was huge.
Was there any friction at first or like a lack of inertia in getting started?
No, like to get started, like doing that, like I just kind of threw myself into it because I'm not sure if I'm answering your question right, but it was just like, I mean, I was already in the gym 6 days a week. So it was already that. And, I was already jogging because people say you're supposed to jog like on the treadmill
Right.
for a second, just to warm up before you lift weights. But nothing like this. And it just was a shift of like time. I mean, it wasn't like I was also like I slowed down on the weightlifting because it was just too much time required to do
Right.
both. But so like once I started, it was just it is what it is. And like I posted something earlier. So this guy like did something like House of Highlights where he was on a bridge and got on a skateboard and went off the bridge on the skateboard and like parachuted down. That's like my concept of like when I see something that I like and want to try it.
Just
Yeah,
dive
there
in.
is no like I'm jumping out the window. And I didn't realize that about myself until I got sober. Because everything else, like I used, those past demons and things. But like after sobriety, like I realized that like once I really like something, want to do it, like I'm all in. So it was no hangups there.
So I think a lot of people first thank you for being so open with your journey and all the changes and realizations you've had along the way. I think this kind of stuff is helpful for people to hear because I mean, the feedback I get anytime somebody tells a story like this, I get a dozen messages saying, this sounds like me, or like, this sounds like my story. I didn't know, I thought I was alone in this. And so, even just like voicing it and speaking about it is helping someone out there. So, first, thank you for doing that. Second, for establishing sort of how it evolved, what was the turning point for you with alcohol where you decided I got to make a change?
Well, I appreciate what you said. I mean, about sharing, because this is like my thing. Like, I don't want to like make it seem like I got it all figured out at all either. But I just figured that
Nobody
if
does.
I'm gonna, you're right, none of us think that though. Like, we all think that someone else has it like figured out, or like that we're
Yeah.
missing something, or we need this, we're lacking, or whatever. But like, I feel like whenever I have an opportunity to speak this candidly, then I will, because I mean, I'm not ashamed of what I was and who I am. So it's like, if I can talk about it and have someone else, even if they're not like as like a raging of an alcoholic as I was, there may be something in their lives that they're like, yeah, like I can't stop doing this, and it's
It's inertia. Like, but that's the thing. It's like, it doesn't need to be alcohol or
yeah, yeah.
drugs or food or exercise or whatever. It's like there's something that needed to change and you changed it.
Mm.
And I think so many people are afraid of change. Even I was afraid of change. I was in Boston and I needed a change. I needed to do something different. I was like, in the way that I was doing it, I just needed a
Right.
change. And I made a change, but I was terrified initially of doing that. So
Right. You don't know what it is or who you are at the other side of that. I mean, you just don't know. Like, you don't, like, you're scared of like, oh, will I be whatever, who I am or who I was or
right.
whatever. But the point of change, or to what made me decide to go down this road. I mean, I think it was a long time coming too. I mean, because like I started drinking when I was 16 or so, like probably like so many other people, just dibbling and dabbling or whatever, 16, 17. But like my relationship with it immediately was like, it wasn't like, hey, just every now and then or just around the buddies. Like,
It was all in.
I
Yeah.
mean, like the second week, I was like, I like passed out in school. Like, I was like I went all the way. Like, that would have been the sign for like, this isn't for you. But it filled something for me that was like, this is worth it. We'll figure it out. We'll keep going because I like this in such a way. So, but like towards the end of it, it was just to the point where, how sometimes you'll say like, people say like, I'm gonna go on a diet or I'm gonna do this for like, whatever reason. I'll stop for 2 weeks or whatever. I tested that a bunch of different times with alcohol, and it was just like I'd have all the positive thoughts about it and the right reasons to whatever, and use my family as a reason, use my job as a reason or whatever, and it would last for like maybe 3 days, 4 days, whatever, 5 if I was lucky. But then I'd always have some reason to like, oh well, this is, we're out and about, or oh, we're this, and even though it probably was okay to have that drink, maybe even appropriate for that situation, but since I had told myself that I was not going to do it, it's just like every time I would try to do it, it just got worse and worse. I felt worse about myself because I just couldn't stop this thing. It came down to like this one. I was like, look, I'm drinking way too much. Like, I'm starting to feel it. I'm all personal here. My dad passed when I was 8 years old from a stroke, and he looked healthy, all that stuff, but he probably ate like crap, and he definitely was a drinker. So like, I'm like, I just don't want to go down this road. So we got to do something. And if I can't just tell myself I'm gonna stop for a month, even, or 2 weeks, then there's something going on here. So I tried to stop on New Year's Eve. The New Year's resolution thing lasted like 3 days, and was just like, I was so proud of myself. And then all of a sudden, it was just one night just went crazy. And then I was like, okay, we need some help. So I messaged a few people and got linked up with this therapist that I was gonna go. Don't tell her, but I was gonna go vent about my family and wife and work situations. It's everybody's fault. And then like the first meeting, she was like, "How much do you drink?" And I'm like, told her the truth finally. And then she's like, "Well, this you should check out AA. They're cool people. They're not like what you think they are on TV. Just check it out." And I went, and the moment I walked into a room with not one black person in it. Everybody was probably over 45. Not to say anything bad about 45 and older, but I mean, no one was near my age at all. But then they all told my same story over and over and over. Every person that shared, woman, man, whatever, it was just like, why are they feeling the same way I feel? Then I knew I was at home in that, and I felt comfortable, and I stayed, and that was like the moment for me.
That's awesome. Congrats.
No thanks.
How does running play into this?
Running, I think running is like, for me, it's like a continuation of the work that it takes. Cause like sobriety, like one of the things that they say is, just one day at a time. I mean, because, if you're sober for 2 days and you're thinking about 30 days or a year or 10 years or 20 years of sobriety, is so overwhelming and too much. But then at the same time, running, if you are starting the 16-week training block for this marathon, your first marathon, and you're already thinking about the marathon and week 8 or week this or week that, then it's just you're too far ahead of yourself, and you really just need to be one day at a time, 1 mile at a time, one step at a time, and bring it all the way back. So like sobriety in that the AA journey for me, it just mirrors and mimics and feels a lot like a training program, because in life, you're just going to have tough moments where you're out there, you just don't want to feel like doing it anymore, you feel like you just want to quit or whatever. And same thing for me in drinking. It's like there's going to be days that are just, these are the days that I would have had a drink. This is the day, like this is the time that I would have reached for that. And they just feel so much alike to me, that fight that I had with alcoholism, and then the fight that I have to get better as a runner. But one of them, I choose to put myself through the suffering, and it ends up to be a positive thing. Like I heard somebody like say addiction was the act of like doing a substance or a behavior that is detrimental to yourself or other people around you. So like, yeah, I may be really into running, but the more I run and the more that I do this thing, my family benefits from it. I benefit from it. So it's only bringing positive and good to it. So it's just on the other side for me. It's like it almost feels like the same journey or struggle for me, but for a positive point.
Very cool. Isn't it wild how like these stories that people have with overcoming something and then getting into running? Like there are so many times I've heard someone dealing with addiction or sexual abuse or like something that you have less control over, getting into running and then being really good at going fast or going hard or going long because you control it and you can make it stop at any point in time.
Yeah. I feel like sometimes when I'm out there and it's like it's tough or whatever and you want to stop, I think that like because of maybe the things that I've gone through or suffered through or whatever, I just feel like I'm okay with staying there a little longer maybe. I think I'm not saying that like I don't want anybody to hear listening to this think that I'm like some beast out there or whatever. But I just think that there's a certain connection where it's like I've been lower than this before, and it was almost not even it was my choice to drink, but then at the same time, I feel like it wasn't in certain cases. So it's like, I've been through worse than this for much longer periods of time than the rest of this race. So we're just going to stay here and it's my choice. Like I could stop running right now and just go over the gate and just go find like a Uber somewhere and be done with this whole thing forever. But,
Which
it's
is
like,
tempting at times.
dude, like I did Falmouth road race, and like at mile like 5, I was like,
There's a restaurant right there.
I could stop right now.
Yeah.
But then I'm like, wow, it's too many people. Like they'd all see me, and I'd be like the guy that just stopped and like started like walked away. But yeah, I just use anything that I can to like keep going. But yeah, I agree. It makes a lot of sense though that people that have gone through different things are just able to just stay there longer.
Yeah. So I started this podcast to explore like that moment and to understand what happens when things get hard and like how do you endure or persevere when you want to stop, right? The definition of endure is, I'm going to botch this, but sorry, the definition of endurance is the ability to persist when you want to stop. It's like close enough.
Yeah,
Anyway,
perfect.
and so I paced a friend in a 100-mile race
Oh,
and I watched her go from mile 54 to 66. And she did it exactly how you described, right? One foot in front of the other. The way you were talking about getting through sobriety, one day at a time, one step at a time. It like the parallels from life to running and running to life. There are so many of them. And I think that's
yeah.
what's so cool about it. And those of us who are able to see running as more than just like a physical thing that we do for exercise and can draw these lessons from it, it makes us better people, I think.
Mhm. Yeah, maybe they do parallel a lot, like running in life. So maybe the reason why like I'm so into this running thing is because it's like a little side life. Like I messed up my first 33 years of my life so terribly, and I just didn't work hard enough, and I quit every time like I would try to do something, or like it got too tough, or I just would not show up all the way, or I wouldn't practice or do homework or whatever because I didn't want to fail. So why try? Like, just don't try, and whatever, you won't fail. And maybe I'm just like trying to redo this in a small form of running, because like my running life, compared to like 33 and before, it was like it's not even the same person. Like, that's why like sometimes people say like, what's your name? I'll just say Tommie Runz, because it's like a different thing now. And maybe that's why I'm so into it. And when it comes to like endurance, I don't know where I go, but I just know that I just don't want to ever like stop. I mean, unless I'd have to. Like, I haven't had to yet either. But like, I mean, there's certain points when you just have to. Like, it's just obvious, or you're injured or whatever. But if I can continue, like, I'm gonna try. And even if you have to tell yourself just one more step, and you're only able to do that 10 more times, and then you gotta stop, whatever. But like, I'll tell myself 1,000 different things within a quarter mile just to keep going. And I don't even know where we go at that point, but I go there. And often, though, it's so many times, like, if people think about it, there's so many times in races that you can look back on, and just know at that moment I was going to stop because it was too much. It was just too much. Like, it was hot, humid, hilly, whatever. And then somehow you finish, and somehow your last mile was faster than the one before that. Like, so it just shows you we all have much more in there somewhere.
Totally. One thing that you were talking about a few minutes ago about this whole running life being your second life or another go of it, I love retrospection and looking back at like previous versions of ourselves. And I often ask, what would you tell a younger version of yourself? But the way I'm going to ask this one is, what would 25-year-old Tommie think of you today?
25. 25 was a wild, wild kid. 25
Nailed it.
is crazy. 25. I mean, I think so. Yeah. So now wasn't that wild, because we had my daughter at 23, and I tell her often, she's 14 now. I tell her often like that she saved my life, like legit, because life before her was much, 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 much different. But yeah, 25-year-old was just trying to get into the real world and try to do something and raise a kid. And I would have saw myself and thought that it was impossible.
To be where you're at now.
Yeah, where I'm at now. Like, if 25-year-old Tommie met 37-year-old Tommie, it'd be like, that's probably not likely. But I would have been impressed, like, oh, that's cool. And maybe not me, but that's awesome that that guy's doing that, and maybe I could do some other version of that. But yeah, I'd be happy with this guy if I could. I don't want to change anything either. Like, I don't ever want to get to like, oh man, if I had started doing this earlier, because I wouldn't be who I am now if I didn't go through this stuff. So I don't want to get too far into that, but I think that it's fun looking. 25 would have been like, that's strange, but you're a cool guy. You're a cool guy, I guess.
Your Tommie Runz. I've never heard
Yeah,
of him.
right. Yeah, no, like, I think 25-year-old Tommy would have been like, yo, bro, cut your hair. What's going on with your hair right now? Yeah.
Yeah, I like looking back like that in both directions. I saw something on Instagram the other day. It said a previous version of yourself is really proud of you right now.
hmm
And I
hmm
feel like that's like really relevant to right here.
Yeah, because when you're in the moment, you do get kind of like we're always so focused on like what maybe the future version of ourselves would think of this moment,
Right.
or even the present, how we feel. But then if you look back, just a little bit, a few years even, it can kind of change your perspective. I was talking to a friend, and he was talking about like his progress in running and things. And if you go back to like 3 months before this moment, you're a better runner than you were 3 months ago. And I'm sure so many people, if you just take a second just to look back, if you like have gone through a training block or something for whatever, or done a few races, if you look back 3 months ago, you're different than you were. You're better and stronger, even if it's just, a small difference. We all can think about that a little bit and say like, oh yeah, we've made some progress, because progress is hard to look at or see sometimes when you're in the moment, because you just feel like you're in the same exact spot as you were because it was only a month ago. But you've made progress, unless you've literally been sitting staring at a wall, then you're probably not
Not
doing
as
much.
good. What are you proud of progressing towards, or what are you working towards at the moment?
Right now, I'm just working to be honest, I'm working on like just building, my brand as a runner and as a person, because I
What
just,
does that mean?
like, because I mean, social media is kind of, it makes it cool, because you can just you can post really cool pictures and get people to like you and follow you and all that stuff. And I think that I'm decent at that because I like having fun with that social media aspect of it. But as it grows, I want to continue to tell my story and share like who I really am. Like, because Tommie Runz, like you said, is like, oh, as you got the Boston qualifier or whatever. That's cool. But if we could just talk more about like what I was doing, 4 years ago and 3 years ago, 2 years ago, I think that there's so many little stories that maybe connect with other people that can help. Because what am I sharing all this crap for if it's not going to help anybody? So I'd like to continue to grow that brand of just being able to be seen as like, if he can do it, maybe I can too, in some version, not necessarily even running. Like Rich Roll, for instance, like I got sober and this went vegan, and then I found like his book Finding Ultra, and then I listened to it and started listening to his podcast. And even though people may not run ultras or go vegan, he affects and changes a lot of people's lives just by the process and just being open. And that's what I want to continue to do and use this for something to inspire my kids and then to inspire other people just by being me. Not like, I don't want to do any motivational speeches. Just not going to be my thing.
Just podcasts.
Just the story. Yeah. Like, just here's who I am and how I got here. And if you could take something from that, then great.
The last conversation I ever had with my grandpa was about the meaning of life. So, small talk. And he said the whole purpose of all of this is to leave the world a better place than when you came into it. And the way you do that is through exactly what you're saying, sharing these experiences and connecting with people in every sense of the word. And it's not about, the insignificant traits. It's like the things that make us who we are. Like that's what people need to connect on. So you're doing it, and it's awesome to see. This also reminds me of a conversation I had with Joe Holder where we were talking about his platform, and I commented on, oh, you've got so many followers. It must be so great to I didn't say it in this way, but basically talking about like you're impacting a lot of people. He's like, dude, I don't care. If I impact one person, that's enough.
Mm-hmm.
And if one person can connect with my story, if I can get one person off the couch, that's a win for me.
Yeah, I think that's. I mean, because we all like you grow your following. It helps you do
Right.
something. It helps you do something.
Right.
Whether you just want to make some money, or whatever, get some free shoes. I mean, that'll all come along with it, I guess. But then, hopefully, and I think where it's more sustainable is if you genuinely do care and like people and maybe want to connect and, like you said, affect one person. And the more followers you have, and the more people that audience, bigger audience, the more chances that that's possible. But it's still like you're still in silos though too. I mean,
Right.
you're not just gonna randomly find somebody that's like just staring at the wall for the last 6 months, and then they just
Right.
randomly
It's people who are interested in making change or doing something physical or whatever. Yeah.
stumble across your podcast randomly while like scrolling through the wall platform.
Yeah. I'm looking for a finance podcast, but I stumbled across For the Long Run. Wow. Now I'm an ultra runner. Cool.
Yeah, I decided I'm gonna sign up for that 50K.
Yeah. It's the 401k.
Yeah, I was looking for a new IRA, and somehow I ended up on your podcast, and you changed my life forever, bro. Thank you.
I have to imagine that some race director out there somewhere has like registered a 401k just so that like somebody accidentally signs up for it.
Had to, like, there should be. Well, what was the distance on that? I don't even want to know.
What's the distance on that? That's
401k.
240 miles.
Oh, that's not bad. There's got to be a 401k out there. Isn't there like a 250 racer or something like that?
Yeah. Candace
Why
Burke
is
puts
one
on a
not
bunch of 250s.
It should be called the real 401k, man. I'm so serious. That would be the best. That's why is this not a thing?
I think we got to cut this podcast off right now and just start it.
Man, this is a good idea. Me and Tina Amir came up with a movie idea on the podcast, and I think this is better than the movie idea. This is great.
Speaking of great humans, I had the privilege of spending time with Tina this weekend, and she is doing such cool stuff on her podcast, and she's writing a book and doing really amazing things. So check out Tina Amir's podcast and upcoming book with Zoe, who is the trail boss over at Trail Runner Mag.
Okay, yeah. I'm gonna text her and give her a hard time and tell her that you one upped her, and now we have a better idea.
Yeah, fantastic. Thanks again to Lyric for sponsoring this episode. Lyric's rhythm therapy is designed to help everybody and every body relax and temporarily relieve pain. As the miles have continued to grow this marathon season, using Lyric has been a great way to effortlessly help with some good passive recovery in between sessions. Get yours today for $1.99 at national retailers like Target, Best Buy, Bed Bath & Beyond, or REI, or get free shipping online right to your door with the code FTLR at experiencellyric.com. And now back to our conversation. Well, moving on from the 401k, which I don't think I'll ever move on from. Did you run today?
I'm running after we're done.
So Tommie Runz. So why is Tommie running today?
Tommie is running today because that's what Tommie does, you know? Honestly, like no, I'm very, because of like to offset my life versus running life thing, I'm very like strategic when it comes to that. And like I have a coach that I work with, I've been working with for a couple of years now, and I just stick to the script and very, you know, regimented and disciplined and all that, because the more I do that and the more I show myself that discipline and consistency works in something, then it just seems to like slowly help me change and fix other parts of life too. I mean, because they're not independent. Like if you're super disciplined in one area in life and you allow it and kind of learn from it as you're going through that process, then you can implement it in other areas too. So it's just what I do. I like running, and I got to keep the charade up, you know, and make sure people know. People think that I actually like this stuff. You can't take too many days off. Like you gotta post something if you do.
Yeah, I take Mondays off, and I try and post every day because I'm a slave to the algorithm. But every Monday is like a throwback mountain picture because I'm not running. So
Well, that's dope though. At least you're doing something. Like my Friday is my day off, and I think I just post pictures of like a donut or something like that. I don't know. Like your pictures are probably better than mine. They're probably more inspirational for sure.
donuts are pretty inspiring though.
I mean, they inspire me. Like I was thinking about donuts on one of these runs. I can't remember where it was, but it was like a terrible run. I'm like, yo, it would be so nice to just get done with this and get like a donut, like a vegan donut, straight up.
And did you?
I did. I did.
There you go. What kind of donut was it?
I think it was just like, I think that day they had like sprinkles, because there's a place called Donut Bar here in Michigan. They're a normal donut place, but they always make two versions of donuts like per day, or vegan donuts per day. So they have like a whole line of them, and they've got like crazy stuff on them, like Oreos and this and that. It's craziness, and I think that one day they just had like random like sprinkles, which was fine. You know, it wasn't as fancy as like the creme brulee next to it, but that one wasn't vegan, so I just went with the sprinkles.
Fair enough. One of the things you talked about earlier was mental health. We've talked a little bit about this. How does mental health connect to your running?
Running has been great because it's like, I mean, I mean, a lot of people say like it's meditation. I mean, I think it's just like a form of meditation. I mean, I run 6 days a week, but you know, whenever I was getting really good at meditating. Like getting really good meaning like I was just okay with sitting still, not going too crazy. I mean, the point of meditating is to not have no thought, but just visit the space where you see thoughts, you know, look at them and then let them go, you know? And running does that for me too, where like I'll just have random thoughts, and normally I'm able to just let them go and move on from them. But it's still not like sitting still because it's a lot of stimulation and all that. But I just feel like it's a great way for me to just let it go and be out there and talk to friends while on the run, or just be by myself and just listen to the thoughts, let them go. And on the hard runs, you really get to running, it will get you to meet yourself anyway. But then like those harder, longer runs, those will bring you
You mean
really
you
close
make her?
to, yeah, that you get much closer to like who you think you are and who you maybe might be for real. And the more you get to that point, I think that those are super therapeutic, especially if you're able to like get past that, you know? And I think racing does that too. Like those moments where you say you just want to just hang it up, walk away. When you're able to get past that moment and then like look back and finish, even if your time wasn't what you wanted it to be. Like I raced in like the Crim thing here in Detroit. I mean in Flint, Michigan. It was a 10-mile race. I was disappointed in the time because it just wasn't what I was like looking for. And I just had to look back though at it. I'm like, whoa, like mile 5 through 8 was probably the worst experiences for me in a race, I think, to this point. And I still finished the last mile faster than the ninth mile, you know? So I think running has just been really helpful for me to be able to get away and just be with my thoughts and learn how to get past those points when I'm like, nah, I don't want to do this anymore.
And on the flip side, there's the community aspect of it. So we got introduced from Aaron Bailey, who is a friend of mine. I guess neither of us live in Boston anymore, but
Which is apparently my cousin, some sort.
right.
Yeah, if you guys know Aaron Bailey, we are definitely not cousins.
Yes, definitely not cousins. But Aaron and I had a fantastic chat on this podcast a while back, and the three of us were all at Falmouth together, but the two of you were actually together at Falmouth.
Yep.
And she was like, "Hey, you got to meet Tommie, interesting guy. You guys should chat." And she seems to know all the interesting people in the world. She's a very interesting person herself.
Yeah.
And it's just like the epitome of like community, right? It's like she is a connector. I like to be a connector. And so I'm curious, what does community mean to you?
I just think that like especially when it comes to running, I'll just go start from there. But I think that a group, small or large, that is just looking for the same things in this experience. Maybe not in life in general, but like I'll just go back to like the AA, my first AA meeting. That's the epitome of like community to me because there's so many different people in those rooms or that room in particular that I mentioned that have all different backgrounds. We're not all raised by the same person. We don't all have the same trauma, blah, 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 blah. But we all are there. We were all fighting the same issues, and we're all looking for the same peace or serenity in life. And running is like that as well. I mean, we all have our own trauma, but we're all trying just to be a better version of ourselves. And we're showing that through like the dedication and commitment to running. So I think that's where running is such a really cool community in itself because we all relate to each other. Like just the concept of like if you run in the London Marathon where Kipchoge won last, he started on the same start line that you did, and as long as you finished that day, you guys went through the same steps. He did it much quicker,
Took a
probably.
little more steps.
Yeah, we might have taken a little more, but we all crossed the same finish line with the same route. And I think that is that's why running is such a huge community, and people just connect because we're all fighting the same battle and we're all just trying to be better. And I think community just helps you, even if we're going about it different ways. You could be a trail runner, and I'm just a road runner guy, and somehow we still connect on the bigger picture, and we just continue to help each other and connect because it's just what we do if we're around people that are trying to go the same direction.
Very cool. What does success mean to you?
Freedom to be yourself and who you are and what makes you feel like not just good, because like I don't want to say feel good because I thought I was feeling good my first 33 years of life too. Like I thought I was making myself feel good, but the ability to move what's best for you and what's best to make you feel like a whole person. I don't want to confuse it because like I at first I was like success meant to me like being able to have the things that make you look successful and make you feel successful because other people judge you that way. But now that I've been separate from that a little bit, the pandemic showed me a lot, in the sense of like, going into it, I still have the same job. So I love my job. It's great. But at the same time, like I had no control of like what was next, like I was at the whim of like maybe my boss or the owner of the company, and I was successful at that point, I thought, but that's really not success to me if I can't go to sleep at night knowing that in the morning like this guy may decide like, yeah, we need to get rid of your salary because of this thing. I had to adjust or rethink like what success is to me, and I think success is just freedom in all aspects. And if you can move through life and do what's best for you or your family at the moment, and if running, like, because right now you have a lot of freedom, like I mean I see like you like your job and you're good at it, but then you have a lot of freedom to the point where you can just say like, hey, I'm going on a run. And to me that's success. Like, and it's not about being an owner of a company or being an entrepreneur or whatever, because I think a lot of people tie that in there too, like you have to work for yourself. But if you decide like I have the freedom to decide to work for this company because of these things, that's success to me. And if you're able to do that and thrive, then you're successful. And if yours is different than that, where you don't want to work for anybody at all and you want to have your own company and you want to live in the woods and run every day, and you're able to do it, that's success. With $5 a day, whatever it is, I don't know. But whatever makes you feel like you're living the best version of yourself and full and free to do so, then you're good. That kind of goes back to like why I started growing my hair a little bit, because like in certain aspects of like the industry that I work in a lot of industries, this hairstyle isn't like the one that you walk into, you walk in with a suit and say it's just not expected of me maybe or whatever. And I was like, I'm going to do what I want to do. I want to be free at this moment. It's just what the way I'm going to express myself at that time. And I like it and I kept rolling with it, and it is what it is. Part of that is for me to be able to do what I still do and do it well and get paid and take care of my family. That's another small version of success to me too.
Very cool. That's a definition and a experience that I hadn't considered, and I love it. So thank you for that.
Yeah, sorry, I'm a rambler. If you
No,
hadn't,
it's good. It's good. People always apologize for rambling on podcasts. I'm like,
it's like I need you to ramble, bro.
yeah,
So
I
just
need
keep
you to
going.
ramble. Ramble is good.
You never know like how you. I mean, you feel like you're just going, and it's like, wait, am I making any sense here? And then you try to bring it back, and then you get stuck talking about like vapor distilled water. It's weird.
Well, this isn't vapor distilled water; it's just tap water. But what I had here in this cup was it was Brita filtered water.
Okay, well, I got this simple. I got simple truth. Is this a commercial?
Genuine H2O. What is it, Billy Madison with that?
Oh yeah. Billy Madison. Sure.
There's a podcast called the Rambling Runner Podcast. We'll have to link you up with Matt over there.
No, I did it. So here's another sense of freedom, right? Let's stick with the freedom story. So I believe in the run.
Yep.
Those guys. So they had me on the show. They had me on a live like a week after they did the Kipchoge thing. 30 minutes.
Tough act to follow.
I know. The funny part was okay. I was gonna go all the way here. So I messaged them after the Kipchoge thing, and I barely knew them. I said, "Oh, dope. That means I'm next." They said, "Yeah, next week." And I did the same thing to you.
Yeah.
And then you're like, "Yeah, next week." And I was like, "This is crazy. I gotta do this more often." So like, I just hit you. I hit you with the same thing, didn't I?
Yeah.
That's exactly how I got on their show.
Yeah, because it was Molly. It was Molly Seidel. And you're like, that means I'm next, right?
And you said yes. I was like, this is working. I gotta do this. I gotta do this for a job next. Like, like some guy loses his job somewhere, like a CEO of some big company. I'm just gonna DM like it means I'm next, right? It's so true though. Like if you ask Thomas, that's exactly how I got on the show.
Take what you want.
It's like a year. It's like a year later. Like it's almost a year later to the day. The same thing's working.
You'll love this story. So my roommate in Boston is a managing director, or was a managing director at a marketing firm for lawyers, which is a mouthful. Anyway, he was going on a bunch of sales calls, and he told his manager like, "Hey, my title doesn't give enough pull." And the guy was like, "Well, the only other title is CEO." He's like, "Okay,
I'll take it." Did he get it?
Yeah, so he became CEO of the company.
That's all. Yeah, I mean, guys, like if you're listening to this, just ask for the thing, because I mean, so many times you're gonna ask, they're gonna say no, but those times they say
Who
yes,
cares?
it gets crazy when they say yes. It's like, oh crap, should I have asked for more?
Right. Yeah.
So I got on the show, or a 30-minute live with Thomas and Believe in the Run, and I've done interviews and things like that, not podcasts, but interviews and stuff like for my job. And I've always been like very open person, but I don't like talk about, like the alcoholism and stuff like that. People that know me know that I'm, vegan and sober, but it was like, yeah, we're not going to go there, But so like I'm on this show as like Tommie Runz, and then he asked me some questions, and I like remember hitting a point where I like detoured really quick around like the sobriety thing and like the reason why I started running and blah blah blah. And then I got off of the thing, and I was like, I felt worse than when I got on the show, because I'm like, I felt so unfree at that moment and so unsuccessful, like at that point, because I had totally been on there as myself and I couldn't even be me. So I was like, you know what, the next time I'm on a podcast or I get this opportunity, I'm going to speak freely. So maybe, so at least I can feel better at the end, knowing that I told my truth. And then Rambling Runner was like the next week or week and a half after that. And so I just talked to him, Matt, about whatever. Let's let it roll. So that's my Rambling Runner. That's my Rambling Runner. But it was like the first time, Rambling Runner was the first time that like I actually talked about like sobriety and my struggle openly recorded. So that's kind of cool.
And where does the veganism, how does that fit in?
Well, I started a little over a year after sobriety. I just started as a challenge, like another challenge, and I just stuck with it because I felt great. And then I watched What the Health, that thing on Netflix, like 2 weeks after. I had already felt this surge of energy and this like this weird sustainable energy feeling, like of something like I had never felt before. So I just didn't understand it, and why do I feel so much different? Like I'd already stopped drinking for a year, so I thought that that was probably going to be enough. But then when I went vegan, it's like, oh, this is a different thing. Like I feel like you got an oil change or something. I don't know. Then I watched the show. Then they kind of put the pieces together and connect the dots. Like, well, this is probably why I feel this way, and this is better, and this is great, or whatever. And then I just stayed there and just stayed vegan. It's just a choice from that, and it started off as a health thing for me for sure. Like, I mean, I didn't at the time I could care less about whatever like animals and things, but the further I move from that date, the more like sympathetic, empathetic I feel towards animals and things like that. So like I won't be going to a zoo anytime soon. But so like that's just kind of where it fits in for me. It's just part of like who I am at this point.
Got it. And the other piece that we haven't talked about is the podcast.
Mm.
Where did that come from?
The Run, Eat, Sleep show came in because I started a company in 2020 called Chip Time Running, and I just like printed shirts that say "Run, Eat, Sleep, Repeat" across the chest and like a red bar. I thought it was cool. People liked it, bought it. They say "Run, Eat, Sleep, Repeat," and that's like a runner's lifestyle. I mean, it is what it is. Like you run, you eat, sleep, or whatever version. Some people eat, run, sleep, whatever. But like that's what we do, And if the more you run smart, eat healthy, sleep and recover like a pro, and repeat it, for consistency, then your PRs come down, aka your chip time comes down. So I had this whole big thing for chip time running. But then I did this. I wanted to help people because I'm like, hey, let's. Well, it was really for me. I was really like trying to like do like a PR thing where I'm like, let's do like a week of the Run, Eat, Sleep week, and it just sounded cool. I thought of it on a run. It was a long run. I was like, I think it was a 12 mile at tempo or whatever. Right in the middle of that, I'm like, oh, the Run, Eat, Sleep show. So, or Run, Eat, Sleep week. So I would have people run at least a mile a day, eat something healthy, post a picture of it, something healthier than you normally would, and then sleep as much as possible, like at least 6 to 8 hours, right? I thought people were going to be like, oh, I forgot to run, or oh, I forgot to walk, whatever. But it was like, I don't know what to eat, and then dang it, I can only get 4 or 5 hours of sleep. That's it. Like, and people were having really hard time with those too. So I'm like, wow, this is crazy. Like, I thought it'd be the other way around, like the physical part of it. So then I was like, maybe if I can use this little small platform I have, maybe I could talk to some people that would talk about running, would talk about the benefits of the proper diet and how to do it, and then talk about recovery and sleep and things. So then I started getting like runners on the show, dietitians, stuff like that. And that's how the show started. And it just started from there. And then randomly, like I just started like, I'm like, I'm a DM like Parker Stenson or something like that. And he answers the thing and he says, sure, whatever. I'm like, oh, here we go. So
I'm on
then
next, right?
yeah, you are next. Yes, you are next week. But like, um, who do I have next week? Somebody crazy. I think I can't remember now. So like, but that's how it started. It was just that 1 week thing that I was trying to do, seeing that people really did need help to talk about it. And then, so when I started the show, it was like to do that. But then it kind of morphed into getting these like elite athletes on the show. But I'm not like some of these podcast hosts that know all about running and they talk great and they, VO2 maxes and things like that. And I'm like, well, I just want to talk to them like normal people, talk about how they felt at certain times or whatever, and just kind of kick it a little bit. And if some guests are really cool with that and they just let it flow and have really cool talk conversations, because these people are straight up like actual human beings, like they run pretty fast or whatever, but like they deal with the same crap we do. They have the same thoughts that we do out there, which is crazy to me. Like Jared Ward said that he like in 2016 at LA or whatever, when he finished third
The
in the
trials, yeah.
trials. The crazy thing was when he crossed the finish line, he said that maybe 10, 15 minutes before then, he didn't think that he was going to make it to that point, like to
And he
finish.
podiumed, yeah.
Like, oh, like they're just faster, but they
Yeah.
have the same issues. They think of the same crap, like
So my dad made a comment to me the other day. I told him I was recording live with Molly Seidel, and he was like, I'm continually in awe of the access that you have to these incredible people. And I'm like, you can DM anyone, first of all, and they'll
yeah,
respond. And second of all, They're just normal people who are exceptional at being consistent. Sure, some of them are a little more gifted, but the thing with running is it just rewards consistency. And if you can be
Yep.
consistent, you can be excellent.
Yep, exactly. Some people don't answer their DMs for everybody. I just want to make
Right,
sure
right,
that
right.
you know that.
That's
You know,
true. That's true.
they answer your. Somebody told me that one time. Like, oh, it was probably Thomas from like Believe It or Not. He said, "Oh yeah, just DM her. She answers." I was like, believe, yeah, they answer Believe in the Run. They're not answering Tommie Runz. Like, you guys have to stop telling people that people answer DMs. Molly Seidel does not answer DMs.
She does, yeah,
Yeah,
confirmed.
I mean, yeah, confirmed. I mean, especially now, like her DMs probably have to be crazy. But yeah, so that was that was the start of the Run Eat Sleep show. Was just I was trying to just shed more light on a runner's life, and then it kind of morphed into like a normal podcast. But I still try to bring the elite to like my audience too, because I do have a different, I mean, I think there's plenty of black podcast hosts for running, but there could be more, and I think that me coming into it much newer to the world because I just started really running for sure and like introduced to the running world in 2018. So I come with a different vibe, I guess, to it because I'm not like I didn't grow up doing this. So I think that like my voice is a little different than what's out there sometimes. And I just think that that's a cool aspect. And I think that people appreciate it. And I'm just trying to grow it and make sure that it's authentic to me and people that get on the show enjoy it and have a good time and actually talk about some stuff. Selfishly, I just want to get better, and if they can drop some gems or I can like run my race better next time and not catch an ugly down step on the finish line again, then, that's all me and Jared Ward
Molly
talk about.
Seidel can't help you with that. I'll tell you that much.
No, her Jared Ward are probably the worst in the industry.
The Downstep Track Club.
And like Molly said when that post she did, so like 90% of her runs are down step.
I have a friend here in Colorado, Tansy Lystad, and she's queen of the Downstep Track Club.
Yeah, the downstep is like the worst thing.
Call it a quad flex. It's not downstep. It's a quad flex.
Okay, it's a quad flex, but then you gotta zoom in. You gotta somehow like strategically take your head out of the picture.
Yeah, because it's
Like,
always
my
like
no, yeah, my downsteps are really bad though. Like I've seen people go, "Oh, I got a downstep," and it's like not that bad. But mine, like I maybe have extra skin or something on my face. I'm not sure, but like I don't look like this anytime except for when the camera guy takes a picture.
I gotta say they were pretty good at Falmouth.
Oh yeah, I had no downstep there, no downstep. Who's the guy that they took that because Asics had a guy taking a picture and it turned out to be like a famous photographer. There's like two of them that are like big and it was one of them.
Was it Justin Britton?
Yeah, it was Justin. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I'm like, oh, he's good. No downstep, high quality.
He's good.
Actually, he probably does have a downstep of me. He just didn't share it.
Yeah, he deleted it.
Only picture he shared of me was the one after the race where I was like looking down, like meditating or whatever, like pondering what I just did. I think that he probably just trashed all the downstep ones of me.
He's just got a massive album of downsteps.
The terrible pictures that man probably has, like in his like, imagine if he just wanted to ruin everyone in one day.
I think for 1 month he needs to post on Instagram 10 carousel images of downsteps every day for 30 days. The downstep challenge.
What he should do, because like he has like a reputation to uphold.
That's true. Sell them.
No, it's even worse. Now he's getting sleazy. Good poor guy. No, like do a reel, do a Instagram reel of like half second of every like all these pictures, just like one after another. Like it almost like you couldn't even tell who it was almost, and it would just fly through, and it probably would go crazy viral. Tag all of the people that are in it,
and
it
the
would
background is my drink and my downstep.
My drink and my downstep. Oh my god. Do you have his number? Do you know this guy personally?
Justin Britton, yeah, we can call him up right now.
He's calling right now. Like, get on it. I mean, he's not famous enough. He needs to do better with the social media presence, and we're telling him how to do it.
Yeah, I think we gotta end on that note. I'll text Justin right now, and we'll make it happen.
Yeah, let's do it, man. He needs to step his game up a bit.
Well, Tommie, thank you so much for taking some time to chat. I hope we can share another start and finish line at some point in the near future, and we'll see you out there.
Yeah, thanks, man. I appreciate it.
Of course. Where can we find you on your corner of the internet and podcast?
Find me on Instagram at Tommie Runz. It's TOMMIE_RUNZ, and then go for the Run Eat Sleep Show on Instagram, and the rest of it's all there. So pretty easy to find. I'll be downstepping somewhere, I'm sure.
Tommie, thanks so much, and see you out there.
All right, thanks.
That's it for today's episode. Like many long runs, it's sad when it has to end. I hope you join in next time on For the Long Run, and in the meantime, happy trails. If you enjoyed this episode, it would mean a lot to me if you shared it so that others can find it and enjoy it too. This podcast and the accompanying music has been produced by Brian Walters of Single Track Sound. For the Long Run's logo was created by Vanessa Wolf of Sterling Wolf.